and welcome to Voices Unhindered. I'm Crystal Jenkinson. On this show, I give a unique perspective and listening ear to voices that often go unheard. I want everyone to know that you are not alone and that your voice and story matters. This week on Voices Unhindered, I'm joined by Rob Woolley, who is a former stutterer, now public speaker, founder of Talk Business Network, and a former coach for overcoming stuttering. Rob Woolley shares about his childhood, adverse life experiences, and we talk about the fear of public speaking. Subscribe now to my Patreon and YouTube, which is in the description below. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hi, Rob.
Hi.
Could you please tell me about where you grew up and what were your aspirations as a teenager?
Oh, wow. I grew up in the Hutt Valley.
I did as well.
Did
I
you
noticed
really?
that. Yeah, it's a Hutt Valley High School.
Oh, no.
For a few years. I was.
Oh, no. Well, we might have to can the interview now because you were like our arch enemy. I went to Nainai College, and for anybody who doesn't know, the main two colleges in the Hutt Valley were Hutt Valley High and Nainai College.
I remember being there. Sorry to interrupt. One day, it wasn't a good time. Fire alarm went off and like all the water came out. I don't know. It was just such a chaotic school. I just saw like they weren't really learning, rebellion in the class, and teachers don't know what to do, and there's lack of discipline and all that stuff.
Hold on. Is this Hutt Valley High or Nainai College?
Okay, it was both.
Oh, wow.
That was both, but I did see that at Nainai as well. But that's just my, little snippet of what I saw there. I was actually wagging. I didn't actually like high school.
I can't believe that.
What?
That you would wag class.
It became a habit because I hated class. I got like anxiety during class, and I just had a lot of mental health issues and other issues.
Well, I've still got them.
Yeah. No, I wondered how you managed to like graduate and get through that school.
I wondered how you managed to get to this age having had such a terrible upbringing in Nainai. Yeah. I used to call Nainai College the axe-wielding homicidal maniac capital of the world because for a while there were a lot of people that went to Nainai College around about the time that I was there who killed people or were related to people who'd been murdered and stuff. It was quite bizarre there for a while. Yeah, there was a head found in a microwave in Nainai. I don't know if you
No, not really. That's interesting.
It was all done in good fun, though, at the time.
And did you live in Nainai as a kid with your parents?
I did. But I was raised by my grandparents.
Wow, I was too.
Oh.
That's interesting.
Are you sure you're not my long-lost sister? So I was raised by my grandparents, and my grandmother used to fall out with the neighbours, so we used to move every 12 months. And people think that I'm making this up, but I actually moved 14 times.
Wow.
From the age of maybe about 3 or 4 through to about 18.
There's definitely similarities between you and me. Like, I moved so much as a kid. I don't know if it was 14, but it was a lot. That's really interesting. Like, what do you mean your grandma had a fallout with the neighbours?
So I can't ever remember an actual argument between my grandmother and a neighbour. Like, I can't remember one. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but I think that my grandmother just never really got along with a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And so after about 12 months, she'd had enough. And so we all packed up and we'd moved. So so we were just here, there and everywhere. My aspirations, coming back to that original question, my aspirations kind of totally changed when I was 9. So we used to have a person who used to come around the school, and each person in the class would walk down the corridor into a room, and you had to count to 10 and to say your ABC. And each year I knew there was an edge on it, but I couldn't really work out what it was, but I used to get through. And when I was about 9 or 10, I didn't get through. And the lady called up my grandparents and said, Rob has a speech impediment. And unfortunately, the moment that they said that, that was like me being branded.
Yeah.
And I lived into that. So from that point on, anything to do with speaking was like a major event.
Yeah. And do you think that what they told you affected your own beliefs about yourself? If they hadn't have told you that, do you think things would have been a bit different regarding speaking and just your feelings about how you spoke, if that makes sense.
Yep. A lot of the times, I don't think if anything like that happened, you'd be able to answer it. But for me, I could, only because prior to that happening, I used to arrive at class and I was always asking questions. The moment that happened, I asked no questions.
Wow.
In fact, it went completely the opposite too. I used to turn up, when you go into school, you go into a new class each year, obviously. So I used to write a note
Yeah.
to hand to the teacher as if it was signed by my grandmother to say, Rob has a speech impediment. Please don't ask him any questions in class. So the worst part of the year was introducing yourself, standing up at the start of the year and saying your name, because if you stutter, your name is the hardest thing for you to say.
Yeah. Did you get bullied at school? Do you mind me asking that?
No.
That's interesting.
No. Everybody else who stutters, and I've met hundreds of people who stutter, well, I don't say everybody, but a lot of people who stuttered got bullied at school. I never got bullied at school, and I think I avoided speaking so much that I was only ever saying the things that I thought I could say without stuttering. Yeah. The only comment that I can remember anybody saying was a guy called Thomas, I can remember his name, who said, Rob, why do you speak so slow? And it was so funny because no one had ever said that. But when I was speaking to Thomas and people that I perceived like Thomas, i.e. people that I thought I might stutter in front of, I used to speak really slow with exaggerated technique because that was the only way I thought I could get my words out.
Do you mind me asking about your parents? Like, what led you to to live with your grandparents?
Oh, how honest do you want me to be?
Very honest.
Very honest. Okay, so I don't remember this. So before anybody who watches this feels really guilty for me.
Yeah.
So my mother got pregnant with me when she was quite young. And my dad and my mother were going to get married. And believe it or not, my grandmother had so many kids that she got the ages mixed up.
Oh, yeah.
Of the kids, got the birthdays mixed up. And so when my mother and my father went to get married, that was the first time that my mother realized that her birthday wasn't her birthday and that she wasn't actually legally 16. Oh. So she couldn't get married. And my dad says that was the best escape of his life. So he vanished. My mother raised me, and then she met a guy through my grandfather. And my grandfather went to work one day. My mum's boyfriend hadn't turned up for work, so he got told, as far as I understand, to go round to the house to find out where he was. And he wasn't at the house, and he went around the back, and I was hung on the clothesline. And apparently, from memory, I had...
You mean your mum's boyfriend hung you on the clothesline? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so hung you mean like as in
I
how he means it.
Don't know. So that's
and how old
it was
were you?
Explained to me. I must have been a toddler.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like I can't remember it, but I was in hospital for ages apparently.
Oh.
So I had 2 broken legs, a broken arm, and some scars and stuff.
Oh. I'm
perfectly fine now, as far as I know.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. And then what did like child youth, what are they called, SIFs back in the day, did they come round and hand you over to your grandparents kind of, or?
I think how it went is that my grandmother just decided that she was going to raise me. Oh. That was the whole discussion. I don't think that my mother had much of a choice at the time. And so that's basically how that happened. I don't have any memory of any of that at all. And so when I was raised, I looked at my grandmother as my mum. And I used to see my mother once every week or 2, I think, for an afternoon or whatever. And I think occasionally I used to stay overnight, but that was about it.
Yeah. Did you feel a lot more bonded with your grandma than your mum? Or did you?
Well,
You don't like to say that
That's a tricky question.
because you said your grandma was like your mum. I can totally relate to that.
Yeah, if I were to compare the two, yeah, yeah, that's an interesting one. I thought of my grandmother as my mother. I didn't think of my grandfather as my grandfather. My dad, I never saw at all, and I saw him for the first time when I was about 14. And so I think I developed a belief that my family are other people I know, and that's how I used to describe it. You know, like when you said the word bond, I don't feel that close to my family.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't feel non-close, if you know what I mean. I just don't, like I see other people and they can meet their family and, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never been raised like that where everybody's, like around a table and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. You weren't like very attached.
So I can see your brain working while you're thinking.
Yeah. That's real interesting. Do you think, I don't want to ask this, but some of the
you will.
issues with your speaking that others might have not recognized, but obviously you were told that, do you think some of what they picked up was related to the trauma that happened to you when you were young that you can't even remember?
I've never associated the two, which is not to say that it's not a fact, but my mother says she stutters, but I've never seen her stutter. My grandmother said that she stuttered, but I never saw her stutter. And so, and I do know with the work that I've worked with, well, on myself and with other people who stutter over the years, that usually there's a parent who stutters. If I meet someone, usually, it's hereditary. Or you could argue that there's a possibility that it's a learned behaviour or whatever. But all I know is that I went to speech therapy before I even started school, but that was because I didn't pronounce words correctly.
Oh.
Apparently. I can't remember that at all. I can remember that very, very vaguely. But when I actually went to school, up until the time that I was told that I had a stutter, therefore I needed to be fixed, prior to that, I just spoke.
Yeah.
So had I been stuttering, I didn't know about it. I didn't have any knowledge prior to that point that I stuttered.
I don't even remember doing tests like that at school.
I don't think they told you why they were doing them. We're talking a little bit before you went.
Yeah.
Obviously. But yeah, you just walked in and you just got asked to talk and that was it.
Did you feel like, I don't know, like sad about it? Like after they told you that? Or like
totally pissed. No, I'll rephrase that. Afterwards, totally pissed.
Yeah.
Because I think had that not happened, and I don't really blame anybody. Obviously, the speech therapist, that's what we used to call them back then, was doing what they did and identifying anybody who has an issue speaking and trying to help them. But of course, there's no real cure for stuttering. And back then, the techniques that we did in speech therapy, which I used to have to go to every week, so that was like a reminder every week that I've got a problem. They did nothing. Like there was one exercise called tandem speaking, where we would sit next to each other and we would read a book at the same time. And that meant that I could read fluently. Once upon a time, there was a big bear who went up the hill, while the other person is talking the same words at the same time. And that was to show that I could be fluent with another person in the room. I'm not too sure. But the moment that you went out of the room, you're still got the same problem that you had before. At the time that I got diagnosed, whatever it is.
Were you about 9?
As far as I can remember, I was in standard 3, which I think was about 9 or 10. Oh. And why I can remember this so clearly is I can remember the teacher that I had in standard 3 and him and I having debates in the middle of the class over maths questions. And then that's stopping.
Oh.
And the other thing is that I had a part in the play. We had a school play called The Pied Piper, and I was the town clerk or the town crier, whatever it was. And the moment that I heard that I stuttered, I can remember saying, I won't be able to do that anymore. I stutter.
Oh, so you limited yourself kind of.
Yeah, I don't think that anybody else, I don't think I've really had a situation where other people have limited me. It's me bringing my own limitations upon myself.
Do you believe stuttering is something that's like, you've just talked about it, but like learned during development years, a response to triggers, or something that's actually in the DNA?
I really don't know. And had you asked me this at various times over my life, as I say, I don't recall ever hearing my mother stutter or my grandmother stutter, even though they said they did. So could I have learned it from them and not remembered that? I don't think so. Fast forward, I did the Maguire program in 2007. I ran the Maguire program in 2013. And so I met a lot of people who stuttered here and overseas. And apparently it is genetic. As I was saying before, I met a lot of people who stutter who have another family member who stutters as well. But just to throw a cat among the pigeons here is I went to a barbecue once and somebody told another person who was at the barbecue that that's the guy who runs those courses for people who stutter. And so a mother came up to me and told me about how her son stuttered. And I asked how old the son was, and I think the son was about 3 or 4. The thing that I picked up on is this mother spoke like a machine gun.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean,
interesting. Yeah.
She spoke so fast that it was like my brain was having all these words fall onto a conveyor belt, and my brain was having to slowly catch up with them.
Yeah.
In order to actually pick up what she was saying. And because I wanted to be as honest and as helpful as I could, I said, do you realize how fast you talk? And she got a little bit defensive.
Mm.
And I said, well, I'm not being critical or anything like that, but I'm just saying that maybe if your son is developing his speech and that's what your role modeling speech is.
Yeah.
I said, I physically wouldn't be able to keep up.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to compete. And just related to that, years ago, I did a professional business presentations paper at Massey. We had a contact course. And so there were about 20 of us in this room. We all got in this big circle. And we had this exercise, and I've never been able to find this exercise because I thought it was really cool. It was a warm-up speaking exercise, and it went something like ha, ho, hum, he, or something like that. And it was to warm up your vocal cords. And you each had to say the 6 syllables and get faster and faster and faster and faster. Well, I dropped out about here. Like I physically, and I wasn't stuttering, I physically could not talk any faster than this. But the second slowest person was about twice as quick as me. So in a room of about 20 fluent speakers, I could physically only talk about half as quick as the slowest fluent speaker. So I do wonder whether there's some genetic thing that I can't speak quick.
Yeah.
But if you've been brought up where you're encouraged to speak quick, or if other people just speak quick around you and you've been trying to keep up, you can imagine if you're trying to go faster and faster that you end up stuttering because you actually physically can't form the sounds fast enough. No idea whether there's any proper basis to that or not.
That's so interesting because my grandma, she's passed now, but she told me that her cousins he had two sisters that always interrupted him and butted in whenever he'd try and say something, and that caused him to stutter growing up. And I was like, that's sad.
I can totally relate to that because, yeah, if you're already stuttering, and I don't know if it's like pre-developing stuttering or not, whether that would be like the precursor to it, but when you are stuttering and you're trying to get a word out, and knowing that you're in a situation where you have to compete, like with friends or whatever,
Yeah.
like to get a punchline out or to get the idea or an answer to a question, like a quiz is a classic.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, everyone stutters then, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you've got like 4 or 6 people around a table.
Yeah.
And you want to be the one that actually gets one question right before someone else. So there's a time pressure thing. And I know that time pressure can be an issue. And a question that I used to get asked all the time, if I have like a friend, partner, child who stutters and they're stuttering, if they're struggling on their speech, should I finish their word or their sentence? That's one thing I get asked all the time. So if I was trying to say crystal,
yeah,
and you said it's crystal,
oh yeah,
would I get upset by that? I don't.
Yeah.
But I think it's a 50-50 thing. So I just tell people, how about you ask the person if it's okay?
Yeah.
And hopefully they'll be honest telling you.
Do you think the act of stuttering causes anxiety, stress, and humiliation, or does it come from like that, like humiliation, and that causes the stuttering?
Yeah. So what comes first?
Yeah.
The chicken or the egg?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a really in-depth question. I could be here all day answering this. But in short, I think people who stutter tend to fall into 2 different camps. Some people just stutter.
Yeah.
So they just talk like this, and they're perfectly fine. They don't second guess whether they should talk. They just talk. And there's a friend of mine over in Australia who calls it his accent. I have a stutter accent. And he's got a New Jersey accent as well. But he tells his kids that's just his accent when he has an elongation or a repetition. But for the other half of us, and I put myself in that, stuttering is really embarrassing. Like we find it really embarrassing, depending on the situation, of course. There's sometimes where I just feel, oh, I wish I could have got that word out. There's other times where you think, oh my God, I wish that had not happened. So a lot of people ask, do you stutter because you're nervous? That's a really tricky question. Apparently nerves don't cause stuttering.
Yeah, you don't look like you've ever been shy, but you could have been.
Heaps of people get a weird opinion of me depending on who meets me and when they meet me. But
were you shy as a kid or nah? Not really.
Well, I went to Nina College.
Yeah, you couldn't have been.
You can't be shy.
Yeah, exactly.
College, you get a shit being there.
Yeah.
You would, but no. I think generally speaking, when I go back to the North Island, I think people are less shy in the North Island than they are down here.
Yeah,
as a very general thing. I think North Islanders have got more personality, but
yeah, I've lived in both. Like I moved from Christchurch with my grandparents and up to Wellington. Like I moved around a lot between schools, and I really found that I loved like the culture growing. Like it's different now; everyone is mixed, but the culture was a lot more mixed in like Islanders, and I just felt like I clicked better there than. There were a lot more like, I don't want to say white people, but like the culture was a lot more, yeah. I don't know, the teachers were kind of like, I felt they cared. The school I went to was like Petone. They cared about you, and there were some kids without lunches there and things like that. And whereas here, it wouldn't, like the teachers, I mean, this is stereotyping, but it was a richer school and things like that, But yeah, it was like 2 extremes I went from.
I think it's changed quite a bit. When I came down here 31 years ago, it was very difficult to run into a Maori down here. Yeah. Which I really noticed. And I can remember actually starting a job and we had a barbecue, and there was a married couple that were there. And I think that's what just reminded me. Oh, wow, it is very white down here. Yeah, you go back up to Nainai, and we had my uncle married a Tongan lady back in the 70s. So, and my stepfather was Maori, and so, but, and I don't know if that mix of cultures just changes the culture, the personality, and so, I don't know, but like when I came down here, it was very reserved, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
I can't think of,
Yeah. I was wondering, just back to the stuttering, I was wondering, just from my own personal experience, when my body's gone into fight or flight mode, when you sense a threat, I felt that I couldn't speak like for a day, and I was like in shock. And could that be related to stuttering? I don't know.
Well, there, and I only found this out, I'd say, in the last 5 years or so, and I don't think I'd ever heard this before. Fight, flight, and this freeze. And usually we only hear about the fight and flight. But for me, I freeze. So when I was young and the phone used to ring, like, that was a traumatic event. And I'm not even making that up. When the phone rang, you, particularly if there was no one around to answer the damn thing.
Yeah, I think I got that as well when my grandma's phone rang. I don't know, is it about me or something?
Yeah, so I can remember picking the phone up, and if there was nothing like coming from me, they used to say, "Is it you, Rob?" And it's like someone took a chisel and fixed that into my brain. I can remember that all the time. And you used to even like cough or something, like just to get something out. But and fast forward to when I work with people who stutter, and they're going through words. I'm thinking, oh my God, I wish I was like that, because I very seldom stutter. I just block.
Oh, yeah.
So I just can't get anything out. Even before I came in here, I thought, oh my God, podcast. Even though I've done heaps of lives on YouTube and stuff, the first one actually freaked me out. The first one came out all hot and sweaty and...
Wow, yeah.
Because you lie, even though there's no one watching it. But just in case there was. But then after that, you kind of calm down. But in order to get me ready for this, I've been doing my coastal breathing and doing some speech exercises and stuff, just so that I'm speaking from here down and not here up. Which, you stutter in your articulators up. You don't stutter in your chest. I don't. And I've just probably ruined your sound by smacking the mic.
So do you get nervous? You don't get nervous in front of... You do public speaking, don't you? How do you... Do you still prepare, like, each time you speak? Do you get... I don't know. If nervous isn't the word, It's like... I don't know. Because you said you don't look like a nervous person. So, I'm just...
I know. I get that a lot. Yeah. I'm wondering what I do look like if I am nervous. I might have to walk around taking selfies all the time. Go, how was I feeling at that moment? But my theory here... So, having gone around classes, handing all the teachers the note, avoiding public speaking like the plague, never taking part in a play or anything like that, probably trying to avoid speaking with authority figures, and definitely trying to avoid getting into a conversation where I would get trapped on a word. And by trapped on a word, I mean getting asked a question where the answer is specific. So if anybody asks me my name, well, it has to be Rob Woolley. It can't be Stephen, although I did call myself Andrew once, just because it was the only thing I thought I could get out. And that was quite funny, because that was a house call at Antiques. And I turn up, And I think I introduced myself. Hi, I'm Rob from Academy. And the lady said, oh, I thought Andrew was coming. And I immediately remembered that I'd slipped off a Rob, and I said, oh, he couldn't make it. The point of it is, I avoided public speaking like the plague, but at school, when some teacher, just because he was a smart ass, decided to ask me a question in class, was fifth form geography. And it was Mr. Cassidy. I think he died last year. And it wasn't me. It wasn't me. It was natural causes, I'm sure. But he asked me, he knew that he was embarrassing me. But like him and I didn't particularly like each other. And he asked me, what's the capital of New Zealand? And I said, I don't know. And he asked me again, and all the kids laughed. He said, what's the capital of New Zealand, Rob? I said, I don't know. And he asked me for the third time, and I said, I don't effing know. But when you get asked a specific thing like Wellington, you just know. I will stutter saying that.
Yeah.
And coming back to that anxiety thing, the thought of stuttering always precedes the stutter. Well, 99% of the time, I think I'm going to stutter before I stutter. It doesn't like, hi, how are you? You know, it doesn't ambush you.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Can it be like you're anticipating, like, it's like you're anticipating to fail at saying a word. Is that kind of what it is?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it can be more so on others. You know, like, for example, if you were to ask me I'll probably get this wrong, a plosive sound, a question where I have to start with a plosive sound, like a d, g, p.
Yeah.
That's more likely a stutter situation. I've got to really quite focus to get those out because I'm really calm and relaxed here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything's going to flow, I think. Everything will flow out, but yeah.
So there are definitely triggers, like what I mentioned about the fight and flight mode. Around some people, you'll feel like you can, like your words will flow and things like that. And then there's other people you'll just like close up on and you'll be like, oh, if like, especially if there's like abuse or something, you'll be like, I want to go near that person or speak. Can that be the case?
Yeah, absolutely. If left to my own devices, like there's a guy that I know, he used to be in my Toastmasters club. He probably doesn't know this.
Yeah.
But he was really calm, really intelligent, and really paid attention when you spoke. For some reason, that put me on edge.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not too sure. Sometimes it can be authority figures. Sometimes, I don't know. It's weird to quantify exactly what it is.
Yeah.
I know that if I walk into a situation and I say something funny, if the person laughs, I'm probably going to be speaking fine for the rest of that conversation.
Yeah.
If I say something that I think's funny and they don't laugh, yeah.
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 Yeah, because you do have a sense of humour. Have you always had that, like even during school and stuff?
As far as I know.
Yeah.
I actually think, weird thing here, if you put it on an accent, the person who is putting on the accent won't stutter. I stutter on my voice. I don't stutter on a put-on accent.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I haven't heard that from anyone else who stutters. I've never actually asked them, but if you put on a strange accent,
yeah,
you never stutter talking like this.
Yeah. Do you think a lot of comedians struggle with stuttering? I know it's a weird question. It's just...
I actually think there was a comedian who did stutter. I'm wondering if it was Robin Williams. I don't think it was.
Oh.
But there's some...
Yeah, he did. I don't know, but he kind of spoke differently.
Yeah, like he's flying through all those accents.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, like The Nanny. What's it called? That movie?
Yeah, like Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yeah, that's the one. It was so funny.
He's flying. Yeah, like you watch him on those talk shows. And, like they used to say that if you got Robin Williams on a talk show, you knew for 10 minutes he was just going to go for it.
Yeah.
And that you didn't really have to say anything because Robin Williams just take over. But Yeah, it is. It is funny. And just as an aside, when you learn a technique to overcome or manage a stutter, you do actually wonder, is that the same mechanism as talking in an accent? Because if I'm in technique, I sound something like this, so I'm more deep and breathy. And you think, well, that's a different Rob. Rob being himself is more likely to stutter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I see. That's interesting that your brain thinks like that. Does it affect your identity? Like, obviously, like, I'm going back to, like, you said, that's a different Rob. Like, does it affect the way, like, obviously it affects the way you feel about who you are and how you, do you know what I mean? Perceive your.
Yeah, that's a fascinating one. I used to run courses up in Auckland for people who stutter. And I used to try to get a guest speaker in because the courses were 3.5 days long. So 3.5 days listening to people who stutter or who are working on technique, particularly me. It's a long time. So I thought, can I get in either a person who stutters who's done really well and is quite well known, or can I get a person in who's a fluent speaker who has got some wisdom to share that may help everybody in the room? So I got a guy called Colin Cox, who I'd heard speak a couple or 3 years before, brilliant speaker, and he was a master trainer in neurosemantics. But he said, I can come in and I reckon I can provide you with some value. So he comes in and he gives a slideshow, and I'd only met him once, and he's talking about himself for at least 20 minutes. And I had no idea where this was going, and I thought this is like a train wreck. And so he's got a slideshow, and it's from memory his childhood, and then his teenager, and then he goes on and on and on and on. And I'm thinking, oh, wow, this is horrendous. So he gets to the end. And it was at least 20, 25 minutes, and I'm recording it. And he says, you've seen my life. Do you think you know me? And everyone goes, oh, yeah. Because he'd done so much. He was New Zealand's strongest man. I didn't even know that at one stage. He's got photos. He's pulling a train. And he was also a coach of first class rugby, or an assistant coach. He'd done a lot. Yeah. And so he asked the audience, do you think you know me? Everyone goes, yeah. And then he started reversing. And he said, so if I hadn't been New Zealand's strongest man, would you still know me? And he got right back to the first slide, and he said, so if I took away all the things that you've seen that I'd done, would you still know me?
Yeah.
And everyone's going, oh, I'm not too sure. And he says, I am not what I do.
Yeah,
and he said, if you make a separation, so your identity is not determined by the things you do that you like or the things that you do that you don't like, he says, then you can choose what you do, and it doesn't affect who you are. You're you. So his aim there was that if you tie your identity to the things you do, you can't change the things you do. And he used to apply that to people that were in prison, that if your identity is tied to crime, you're going to be a criminal when you came in, a criminal when you went in, and a criminal when you walk out.
That's true.
And he said, if you tie your identity to how you speak, if you stutter, then you're going to keep on stuttering the whole time. But if you realize that what you do is not necessarily who you are, then you can let it go.
Yeah, that's great.
And for a lot of people, they found that really moving. There was one girl who was on the course who was just crying, and she said, that's what I have been doing, that even when I've wanted to stop stuttering, I haven't stopped stuttering because her mother stutters, her grandmother stutters, and she didn't want to stop because it would mean that she had become better than her mum or her grandmother, and so she just stayed in that behaviour.
Yeah,
That's how she put it anyway.
interesting. That's really interesting, eh? And that can be applied to not just stuttering. It can be applied to like financially, like you don't want to get better than, because they might look down on you and your family, or it could be anything, eh?
Pro, there's a con, and for every con, there's a pro. So if you want to change, I had no idea you were going to ask me questions about my stutter.
Oh, that was like the main thing I was going to ask.
Is it?
Yeah. That's the most interesting, like...
I feel like I've been, like in a ruck. And the whole world's walked over me with my stutter. But then I know that the vast majority of that is not necessarily my speech. It's just how I've made choices based on the speech to avoid my speech or something.
Do you recommend speech therapy? That, like, does it depend on who is doing it and what they do?
Massively controversial question in the stutter world, right? The speech therapy that I did when I was a kid, I would not wish on my worst enemy. That endured for years. That went on, as far as I can remember, that went on weekly. Traumatic. That went on until my speech therapist went on a holiday, and another speech therapist stood in for her. And I went in there, and she worked with me. I can't remember what we did. I just can remember that I went in there. And I can remember the other speech therapist because she was quite good looking. And she said at the end of it, "Do you think this is working?" And I think she was having a look to see how long I'd been in there. And I said, "No." And she said, "I don't think we'll do it anymore." You beauty. That was it. That was the easiest decision I have ever made in my life. And if I could have undone anything, I would have undone not only all of that speech therapy, but having been tested, everything. And I honestly believe, and I know this may sound a bit weird to people, I would have had a completely different life had I never been told I had a stutter.
Were you diagnosed with anything else at the time? Like, did they say you were ADHD, or how they used to?
All right, okay. Back then, they didn't have letters of the alphabet to diagnose you with. I don't think I'm on a spectrum or anything. Well,
everyone is, eh?
Would anyone say if they were?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, actually, no, it's quite cool now, isn't it?
Yeah, no,
I'm on a spectrum. But no, I'm not Elon Musk. I was quite bright.
Yeah.
So I can remember we had a maths test. I'll just throw this out there. Every school that I can remember had a maths test back in the day. And you had to do 100 questions. They weren't hard. You had to do 100 questions as fast as you go. So I don't really know whether they're testing maths or something else. And I finished in 5 minutes. I was 3 minutes faster than any of the teachers and any of the other kids. So I can think, and I am reasonably bright, and I do think, if anything, that maybe if you get diagnosed with anything, or you get a label, or maybe you get any comment dropped on you, if you're quite bright, you actually extrapolate it into stuff that it's not. And I do wonder if that was maybe a big problem for me. Have you ever got ADHD or anything like that? I think I've got something.
Were you always good at public speaking? You said you avoided it, didn't you?
So, avoided all public speaking like the plague. So to me, the way I explain it to people, I had a blank canvas. I had never had a bad experience public speaking, even though I stutter, because I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Speaking on the phone sucked. Conversations sucked. Speaking to authority figures sucked. Right. But public speaking, clean whiteboard, clean slate. Okay. until I went to the Maguire program in 2007 in Palmerston North, and just something clicked. It was about the first time that I reserved all judgment, because I'm very judgmental. And I went and I thought, this is going to work. And it did. So I turned up. I was firing after 1 hour. I was the most fluent I'd ever been. And there was another guy on the course who was a new person as well at the same time as me. And we made it up, as in we were talking in the breaks and all this kind of stuff. And so we challenged ourselves to put ourselves in the hardest speaking situations we could for the rest of the course. So if you thought it was difficult to go first, you went first. If you thought it was harder to speak, if you went last, you went last, so on and so forth. But the culmination of that course is a public speech in the Palmerston North Square, standing on a bench. And there's a photo of me somewhere standing on a bench, bloody freezing in the middle of winter. And we're talking to about a crowd of about 40. That's my first public speech. But I'd walked in there primed. Mm. I'd had 2.5, 3 days, whatever it was, of training to get there. So we were really looking forward to it. I wanted to be on that bench seat. I wanted to share my voice, my message. And I can even remember that I had read Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And the only thing I got out of that was words become your reality. And I said today, the reality is I have words. Mm. And so after that, I joined Toastmasters, where you are doing a speech. And so all public speaking, I wouldn't say it's been flawless, but 3 times where I've gone to give a public speech and I've felt I could stutter, but the rest I can't. And
I've always hated speaking, especially at school. I didn't get.
Well,
I probably did.
High. Imagine your audience that you're talking to. How bad could that be?
Yeah, I don't think I did one there, but yeah, I was real into writing and stuff. But the speaking part, I think it was just because I was so self-conscious at high school about. You're naturally worried about what people think about you. You're trying to fit into these cliques, and it's just such a stressful time, high school. I found it was a lot of pressure to, peer pressure to do what others are doing, and you might not agree with it, but, I found it like that. I've always found one-on-one conversations really going deep with people, something I'm naturally good at. But then when it comes to a group of people, I pick up energies and I'm like, oh my gosh, that person, I just don't really vibe with that person, and I don't want them to hear what I'm saying to that person because I don't really know who I'm talking to, and I'm I don't feel comfortable around certain energies to be myself, because there's certain people I'm comfortable being myself, speaking freely around this person. I know that they like who I actually am, but then there's people that I'm I feel like I have to close myself off from this person because they don't accept who I am, so I'm going to just either push them away or just try and avoid them. Yep. Do you know what I mean? So that's kind of why I probably struggle with.
Yeah, I do. I think of 2 things. If I walk into a fish and chip shop, and I say fish and chip shop because that just pops into my head, and you walk up to the counter and the whole people standing behind you or sitting down.
Yeah.
Oh, that is a nightmare. Now, no one in that fish and chip shop will have any idea the turmoil I am going through, because I'm thinking, if I stutter here, all these people are going to hear it, because all of those shops are echoey, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All right. Now, I don't know whether they care or not. And if I were to think about it, most of them have no idea who the hell I am and probably don't give a shit, and they'll never see me again. Yeah. But yeah. I don't care, because I'm walking in there. I think I want to be perfect or something. End up having to hold up 2 fingers to say 2 or point to, pisses me off. But that's me, isn't it? Because I have no idea what that audience who are behind me are thinking. So I only say that because I meet so many people who have a fear of public speaking, or they say, I'm no good at public speaking or whatever. And I'm thinking, Have you ever given a public speech? Have you ever really had... I've actually never seen anybody have a really bad public speech.
Interesting.
So I'm thinking, is any of that thinking external to you? So,
That's
I'm no
interesting.
good at public speaking. Has anyone told you that? But I don't even know that it necessarily matters either, does it? If everyone said, oh, no, Richard, you're a really good public speaker. If that person doesn't believe them,
Exactly.
who gives a what they say,
It's not, exactly. It's like those core beliefs that you have that you struggle with, All the little voices in your head that like, oh, what are they going to think?
Yeah, and it's not what other people think of us, it's what we think of us.
Yeah, that's so true.
But the thing is that most people are pretty damn good. They just don't know that.
That's interesting.
But they're not always going to know it by us telling them either. They're going to know it by doing it over and over and over and going from good to very good to maybe great. And as their confidence goes up, their confidence is naturally going to get up.
So you're saying no one's like naturally good public speaker?
I'm saying a lot of people are a damn sight better public speakers than they think. And some of them are tremendously good. And yet their confidence is really low. Their self-belief is really low. And the only way, well, not, I won't say the only way, but our way that they're going to get out of that is just going and doing it. I appreciate you handing me this opportunity.
Thanks for coming on. You're a funny guy. Should have been a comedian. Thank you for listening to Voices Unhindered. It's great hearing from my listeners. Reach out with questions and comments through Insta or Facebook. Just search for Voices Unhindered. I'm interested to know what other topics and voices you'd like me to bring on the show. Subscribe to Voices Unhindered on Spotify or Apple Podcasts to never miss an episode.